connecting virtually or face-to-face. I'm happy to be here in my 10th talk of 11. We're going to do 2 talks here today. The second one we're going to skip and choose a little bit. It'll be a talk on MOOCs and MOOC research that we're doing. The first talk will be a big picture of what's happening in terms of technology and education. So we'll do a couple of different things. I have many videos with me. I have a couple of friends with me. So I think we're maybe missing, oh, there you are, right there in the front row. So some old friends from IU, old friends from Wisconsin, and friends from British Columbia. Also have 3, I've known Tina for too long, maybe, right? I'll get back to that point of how long we've known each other.
Actually, you can sit in front of the green word.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. You want me over there?
Yeah, you can see.
So the green screen. You want me on the green screen? But okay, I can do that, I guess. So I guess before we get started, I do have some books with me here, and one of them is already signed for. I think I have this signed for you. Maybe not. Let me see here. Here we go, Tina. So that's for you. One of my books. I have 2 more we're going to give away. You'll maybe have a chance to win one of these 2 books if you're watching remotely. I'm sorry. I also have a card for a couple people in the room, but again, I'm setting up. Thank you for Thank you. You want a real Indiana souvenir? Okay. I have a couple $1 million left with me here today. I have some cards, there's my millions. I have some chocolates for the guys in the back row that are falling asleep. There you go. Okay.
You can look here. Here is from now on YouTube.
Over to this side. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is delivered to the...
We just roll into YouTube. Okay, thank you, YouTube. I'm looking this way, looking this way, so I'll be looking both ways. So this will be recorded and shared later. Anyhow, it's nice to see friendly faces in my last visit place. I've been at 8, this is number 9 over the past 11, 12 days. I go home tomorrow, so that's why we squeeze this in. So this talk is Education 2020 meets Education 4.0, Visions of our Changing Learning World. You might ask what Education 2020 is, or what Education 4.0 is, and we'll get to that. We'll talk a bit about, in this particular section, about loss of jobs, or maybe not such a loss of jobs. We'll talk a bit about the role of the instructor in this age where people are concerned about losing jobs or not. We'll also talk about the instructional design of courses a bit in here, mega trends for learning, and future trends, so quite a wide variety. Now, I was in Taiwan 5 years ago exactly during my last sabbatical. It was the end of November 2013. And the last stop I made was to talk to Confucius before I went home, as you can see there. And we talked about books. I brought a book with me. Team is happy to get a book, but today people don't want physical books. They want digital books. So that book is available for all of you watching online and YouTube. That book is available free to download in Chinese and in English, soon Arabic, at TEC, Tech, TEC-Variety. So that's the link that you can all find, and I'll put the link up at the very end of this talk. So and there are 10 principles of motivation in the book that spell tech variety. And each principle of motivation, I have 10 activities on how to teach with technology. So we get into tone, encouragement, variety, autonomy, relevance, all these things about teaching and learning. So that was my little baby. It took 15 years to produce, and my son did the book cover. And so it was a family affair. But I talked to Confucius about books, and you know, we've been living in an age based on respect for teachers and listening to teachers, and teachers telling us things, and then we get tested on them. But I got a secret for you. We're moving from that type of learning to something else. And I'm working on that follow-up book I'm calling Education 2020. And it's a secret. So please don't tell anybody about this, okay? Keep it a secret.
for broadcasting.
Get that? Okay, Gandalf, we'll keep it a secret. Everyone's got to keep it a secret in here as well. Now, as we know, robots are kind of infiltrating society, which is causing a disruption, and why politically things are happening that are kind of strange, both in Taiwan and in USA and in other parts of the world. People are worried about jobs and losing their jobs and worried about them being respected or disrespected and so forth. But we're not going to slow down the growth of robotics. It's not going to slow down, but we need training, right? Let's see if I can get something here to play. There we go.
Often is even more frequently by Japanese people based on affordability rather than preference.
People can get cheap sushi, so price is not a sufficient explanation for eating ramen more often.
Our systems are not very well scripted. They have some propositions, they have premises or conclusions.
Just showing short little video clips. You can download my slides at trainingshare.com or at my name, kurtbonk.com. Go to archive talks. All 11 talks are there. You can then watch the whole video. I'm showing pieces of these. I've got a whole bunch I'm going to show in the next hour in here. And so people are worried about jobs. Robots may or may not replace millions of people. There's one study that shows 80-some million jobs will be lost in the US alone over the next few years. Another study shows 58 million new jobs will be created through robotics. Well, we do know that many Education 1.0 jobs are gone. I grew up when there was a milkman and a TV repairman. Those are gone. We are moving to the age of what I call Education 2.0, where the teacher becomes a guide on the side. And we have the people of Illinois to thank for it, even though I don't like Illinois or the people from Illinois. They're flatlanders. I grew up in Wisconsin. I now live in Indiana. We have to drive through that awful state of Illinois every once in a while, in Chicago. Well, they did something called the Plato program. And the Plato program, as you can see here, created some of the first touch screens. It led to the tablet computers. It led to email. It led to chat rooms. It led to online discussion boards and message boards. Not Socrates, not Aristotle, but the Plato system in the 1960s. There's a new book called The Friendly Orange Glow by Brian Deere. That's a very interesting book, very thick book, about what led to this. It's a historical look at the whole process. I highly recommend this book. It just came out a year ago. We get into Education 2.0, the teacher's a guide on the side. And that is me 28 years ago, creating a learning center for kids at risk with a mullet and a mustache. If you downloaded the slides that are uploaded, I added this one in, so there's some new slides, including this one. And I'm working in a learning center for kids at risk in Wheeling, West Virginia. I'm creating a computer lab. And we are using tools like Reader Rabbit and Math Blaster and Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? And that was my master's thesis, actually, and this was post-master's. This is after I graduated. This is Reader Rabbit and Rocky's Boots, logic games, convergent thinking, creativity and design games, okay? And so Education 2.0, the teacher is helping, supporting, guiding, nudging, and so forth. Well, we fast forward now 30 years later, and today anyone can learn anything from anyone else at any time. Today, we have this plethora of resources, an immense amount wrapped around all of us at all times. It becomes a daunting challenge for instructors to figure out what to do, how to package their courses, and what to leave out, and what to include. The course I'm teaching now back in Indiana has an 80-page syllabus called the Monster Syllabus. Students pick and choose. This is week 14. Students self-direct week 14, so I can be here. So we have opportunities to create effective learning environments now. And learning environments are more like a Starbucks today than like traditional classrooms with bolted down desks and chairs. More like communities of learning. Hopefully not throwing things at each other like you see there, but more like this Starbucks approach where students do inquiry and problems, or problem-based learning, project-based learning. We move away from didactic forms of instruction that we've had since Confucius days, right? So we're moving from that Education 1.0 to 2.0, now 3.0, where there's more of inquiry built in, more projects and so forth. So we move from the source of, teacher being the source of knowledge with copyrighted materials and lots of tests to an age where we utilize free and open resources and create flexible learning environments. And teachers are flexible learning consultants, if you will. We orchestrate the learning as a symphony. We move from an age where we transmit knowledge, we have fixed forms of knowledge, to an age where there's lifelong education and we generate new knowledge and other things, as you see in this chart from Julie Salmon, who's now back in the UK. She was in Australia for a bit, but she's now in Liverpool, last I checked. She was at the Open U of the UK when I first met her. She's bounced around different places from Australia, the UK, back. Now people are talking about Education 4.0. And when I go to Taiwan, or not Taiwan, Thailand, people ask me to speak on Education 3.0 a few years ago, now Education 4.0. But in Thailand, they're really not even at Education 2.0. They don't know what 3 or 4.0 is, but some project it's more about innovation, entrepreneurship, creativity, generating ideas, creating classrooms where students are entrepreneurs. And that will equip them with the skills they need to survive in this 21st century, if you will. So I was asked to come to Taiwan 2 weeks ago. I was supposed to be here 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago. I couldn't come twice. I've been here long enough. I couldn't come for the whole month. So my friend Paul Kim, on the right-hand side, went instead of me. This is pictures from 2 weeks ago at a conference called Education 4.0 in Taiwan. And Paul is my twin brother of different mothers. He and I have a lot of similarities. My son, who's also Korean like Paul, went with him to Tanzania, went with him to Argentina to do mobile learning with him with kids called the Stanford Mobile Inquiry Learning Environment, or SMILE project. Paul gets kids to ask questions on their mobile to increase literacy skills. Today, he's built an AI system or an AI platform that ranks the levels of questions that kids ask, as well as it generates questions at different levels of 5 levels. It doesn't have all 6 levels of Bloom's taxonomy. Level 1, who, what, when, where, and why. We want to get at deeper levels. So he's got a database, I think, of hundreds of thousands of questions from which to analyze the levels of kids question asking, as well as to increase the discourse with new questions. So Education 4.0 is about higher levels of discourse, higher levels of discussion, if you will. In part, he talked about that 2 weeks ago here in Taiwan. We just missed each other. There's a number of people who've written books about, in effect, Education 4.0. They're all talking about creativity, including Sir Ken Robinson, who's the top TED Talk person in the world. And you got other people like Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote the book Eat, Pray, and Love, which Julia Roberts starred in the movie, and you may have remembered that movie. Her new book, her newer book, Big Magic, is one that I bought for all my friends at Christmas time a couple of years ago. And then Creativity Inc. by Pixar, co-founder Ed Catmull, who founded Pixar with Steve Jobs, and Toy Story and all those kinds of things, right? Why are they successful? They allow failure. Why are they successful? They give people seed money to get started. They are open. They are flexible. He has a kind of a cross between the university and corporate, because he's from University of Utah with a PhD, yet he's in the corporate world, so he creates spaces for engaging people and so forth. And you also have a book called Zigzag up there. It's by Keith Sawyer, and other books. Adam Grant's got a book called Originals. All these are about Education 4.0. Now, some people are talking about Industrial Age 4.0. So let's take a quick look at the 4th Industrial Age, just as a quick overview of that here. I have to cue each one of these up a little bit. Just give me a second.
The original Industrial Revolution is driven by the discovery that you could use steam engines to do all kinds of interesting things.
That was followed by additional revolutions for electricity and computers and communications technology. We're now in the early stages of the 4th Industrial Revolution, which is bringing together digital, physical, and biological systems.
So in Korea, the big thing today is the 4th Industrial Age. And as you can see, if we're moving into that 4th Industrial Age, we have to equip people with the skills they're going to need to be successful in that age. Here's a little snippet I'll play about what it's like to be a student in this age. And this is about self-directed learning, if you will.
I just didn't try to think ratings ago that I discovered very came up with how to get better productivity and better yields for seeds of corn. And so he basically came with the idea that if you
you would perforate these seeds, you would get more food. And you think about the sugar eating those resources. So how does it get over and over? And he told me, I've been watching YouTube since the age of 12, and I'm so interested that I've seen everything about it. I've read everything about it. The world is really open to learn. I think, how do you give incentive to your kids to do that?
So he said the world's really open for learning. I'm going to see if there's a way to get this to, I can raise the volume here a little bit. Nope, that's maxed out. If anyone has a way, or figure out a way I can get this to play a little bit louder. I don't see, but that's the lightest one in there, so I think we'll be okay. What he's saying there is that the student self-directed is learning, if you will. He's self-directed his own learning to just make a new discovery. Watching YouTube videos. That might be too long, but we'll see. We'll see on the next one. We might have to put her back down, but we'll see. The world's junior golf champion at age 10 in India learned how to golf by watching Tiger Woods videos. Albert Bandura is alive and well, social learning theory, vicarious learning in effect, through online. So people today often don't need a coach, a physical coach, a human coach. They can get coaching through the internet. This is a new age, but it's a difficult age to figure out which resources are the best and which ones we can ignore, maybe. We need new models of education, as is pointed out here, because we have phygital students. Students who are well adapted in the physical world as well as a digital world. They can move in and out of each world back seamlessly, back and forth, back and forth. Learning is changing, whether it's my friends in Dubai, where Lori used to work in Dubai, sharing what they're working on, or it's in Indiana, where Vicky used to work and reside. Classroom environments are changing all around us today. And in part, it's the virtual spaces that are causing us to rethink physical spaces today. Students no longer will put up with the traditional ways in which they were taught because they've had the flexibility in the online space to learn whatever they want to, at whatever time they want to, at whatever pace they want to. Now we move into Education 2020. If you've downloaded my slides, I've cut a few out of this section. You will see that in a second. We have many new roles of the instructor, as I mentioned. Whether it's a course ambassador, showcasing your work in a MOOC, or in putting online resources up and ebooks like my book here, or you might be a concierge at a hotel giving students pathways to move down, or you might be a counselor engaging them with their, helping with their social and emotional growth within the course, or you might be in part a curator finding the golden nuggets. All these C words, coach, caregiver, my name is Kurt, on purpose, these are all C words. No, it's not on purpose. But anyways, these are 20 roles I'll talk about in my next book that all we move in and out of at any point in time. It's no longer just one role of the instructor walking in to deliver and then test. David Merrill, the most famous instructional designer in the world, talks about the first principles of instruction. I brought him into my class a decade ago, almost exactly, and last night I had dinner with two students, former students who were in that class, and they had read his article that I assigned. And like all the students at that time, they really didn't like the article at all. They critiqued it. But then I brought him in live to my class through Adobe Connect, and they agreed with everything he had to say. Everything he had to say. First, go asynchronous, then go synchronous. He believes that there are 5 principles of instruction that are key. Demonstrating what you know, applying what you know, activating prior knowledge, integrating that knowledge, and then solving problems and tasks. Those are the first principles of instruction, and David Merrill has a book on that. So I had to create the last principles of instruction. Instead, someone had the first principles, I had to create the last principles. The last stands for the Learning Activation System Template, LAST. So we include things like the principle of flexibility and being able to turn in your assignments in different ways. Principle of convenience, in effect, making it convenience for working parents or people who have full-time careers in other places, getting them to turn in assignments and drop a box or an email or face-to-face. Principle of cheerfulness and optimism. We know that a lot of people come with baggage. They come with a lot of depression. Family might have issues. Someone didn't come to my talk to dinner last night because of a serious illness in the family. This happens all the time. right? So having a cheerful outlook, optimism, give positive feedback before the critique. Start with something they got correct before something negative. Yet have high expectations. Put a project's prior student work on display so students see what you expect and keep setting the bar higher and higher and higher. But give students choice. My students can have they can pick any 4 out of 10 options. They can pick for their midterm, I give them 6, they pick 1 or 2 of those. They always can pick and choose or design their own tasks. In this age of all these resources, why are we constraining people? Why not have an open week like I have in week 14? Right now I'm here, my students are picking what they want to read in week 14. They're self-directing, self-discussing. Often we'll do it in week 7 or week 8. And they'll find that the most valuable week of my semester, the week they pick and choose, and they often will read more than what I would have assigned, because they have choice. But you want to support them, and give them feedbacks on what they have accomplished, and so forth along the way. You also want to have opportunities to be what? To be spontaneous, to jump up and down, whatever you're going to do. Maybe take some chocolates like I have on the other side of the room and throw them at people. I see that we have lots of chocolates. If you can open those up and pass those around, and if you can open these up and pass these around too, everybody, we can have some food in the room. We can get this on camera up here. Okay, we do have some chocolates and we do have some other little treats that I brought with me. And yes. You probably have some, there you go. Okay, all right, I brought some there. Okay. So we've come a long ways from punch cards. Some of you may remember punch cards and zip disks, right? Lots of things are going on today, lots of new things. We're in an age of exciting time to learn. The principle of organization, in spite of the goal of being creativity and generating, we still need to organize that learning environment. In fact, the most important of the 20 principles is the principle of organization. Principle of sharing. I'm sharing with all this chocolates and cakes, pineapple cakes, whatever going around the room here. Principle of sharing what we're doing when we teach. When I started as a professor, when Tina started, people didn't share anything. We were secluded in walled-off rooms. Now, it's almost expected that we share. With the internet today, we have opportunities to share not only our syllabus, but my free book, or your lecture notes, or practice exams. In particular, practice exams students love. If you share your practice exams with other people, you know, that can go a long ways. There was a professor at Penn State last year who had 200 students in his class. He put his practice exams in anatomy up. 400,000 people around the world access them, right? So, principle of sharing, being passionate about what you're doing, inspiring others, and so forth, right? So, principle of passion and inspiration. Principle of relevance and meaningful or authentic learning. My students write book chapters in a wiki book, with others. We had National Chiayi University in Hsinchu, we had students at Beijing Normal, students in Malaysia, students in Indiana State, other places, Finland, other places, UK, all writing cases or all writing chapters, all collaborating. Today, students know that their peers might be around the world reading their work. It's not just the instructor reading it and it goes in the bin, it goes in the trash. Now, you can put things up on display. My students do documentaries of the class. My students do videos of what they've learned. My students do podcast shows that get read and watched by the next year's class. So, principle of trial and error. At Indiana, we have the Mosaic bus. Well, Mosaic is our active learning project. And that bus broke down, but they fixed it and got it going again. Just like, oh, I can get some chocolates too, look at that.
Those are good chocolates, right?
These are good chocolates. Sorry about that, all the people watching around the room. So, the principle of get that again. So, principle of trial and error. Letting your students fail. And rewrite, and redo, and resubmit. Make it okay to be, no project's going to be perfect the first time around. Let them build and rebuild. Most companies exist today because they took on principle number 15. I'm not going through all 20 principles, by the way. I cut some to show you other things. So, most companies would not exist today if they didn't allow for trial and error. And that may mean human connectedness. We have LinkedIn. I have what? I have a WeChat on my phone. I have Kakao Talk for Korea. I do not have Line for Taiwan, sorry. But I do have WeChat, and some of you connected to me in WeChat already. And I have I have Instagram, I don't use it. I have LinkedIn, I have Facebook, I have Twitter, I have academia.edu, I have ResearchGate, all these things, all these social media that connect me to other people. Today we have classes that have Facebook websites for the class, and has Pinterest websites for the class, connected. Now I have 19 principles, I'm missing number 20. Maybe one of you watching on YouTube later, maybe one of you in the room here with me, can give me number 20. I will thank you in my book. I'll give you 1 point, I'll give you 0.00001 royalty if you give me number 20.
A wizard is never famous for beggars. Nor is he earned. He arrives precisely when you need him.
Okay, so the teacher arrives when you need them. That might be my 20th principle. I don't think so. I need something else. Anyhow, these are the 20 principles. My last principle is learning activation system.
The last one could be the principle of celebration.
Principle of celebration. So if you saw my talk 2 days ago at National Taiwan University of Science and Technology, I gave a talk on writing from how to get published. And the 20th tip was a tip of celebration. So I agree with you there. It was my 20 there. It should be my 20 here. Celebrating learning, celebrating accomplishments. That's a good one, actually. So flexibility, spontaneity, convenience, trial and error, all these things wrap together to create effective learning environments. So all of you have this in front of you, right? You have this sheet. I'm going to go through 30 ways that learning is changing in front of our eyes. Okay? There's 10 related to engagement, 10 related to access, and 10 related to customization. I also have these 30 on the sheet I'll pass out in a little bit. I want you to write down one way that you think learning is changing. You might say learning is more fun, more active, more experiential. What's one thing? Learning is more what? If you guess one of the 30, I will give you one of the last 2 books I have here. Okay, I have 2 books left to give away. I'll give you one of those books. So learning is more what? Okay. Pass around some more pineapple. Anyone else need some more pineapple cakes? Learning is more what? Don't tell anyone. Okay? Don't tell anyone. I've got. Where did my second book go? Here it is on the corner. Okay, so I have 2 books to give away. All right. So some of you might say it's more informal, more video-based, collaborative, self-directed, global, mobile, open, that kind of thing. So number 1, learning is more social. Learning is more hands-on. Learning is more mobile. Learning is more touch-centered. Learning is more game-like. Learning is more adventurous. Learning is more digital and rich. Learning is more immersive. Learning is more collaborative. Does anyone have any of those 10 written down? You do. You already have the book. Okay, anyone else have any of those 10 written down? Any of these 10? No. Okay. So, learning is more mobile. Does anyone have a smartwatch? Anyone have a smartwatch? You have a smartwatch? Is that a smartwatch? Come on up on the screen, on the green screen. Come on up. Okay, Professor. Okay, come back here. Come back here wait you on the green screen. So he's got a smartwatch. I've got a dumb watch. You can have my dumb watch. I now own a smartwatch. Isn't that a nice deal? It's a cool deal. What do you use your smartwatch for?
Support.
Support.
Yeah, exercise.
Exercise. Fitness.
Yes, record my
heart rate.
all the morning.
Okay, gotcha.
To keep the record. To see what's going on.
Anything else?
Only this.
Okay.
Others watch the time.
Watching your time.
Yes, that's it.
Okay, thanks. And you can give me the watch after we're done here today. Okay, so mobile learning, checking your schedules, checking your contents, downloading new contents, right? Some people are on the mobile so much they're like zombies, right? I was in Hong Kong 3 years ago and I went to dinner. 8 people were sitting at the table next to me. All 8 people were checking their mobile for the entire dinner. No one talked to each other for like 2 hours. All they did was check their mobile learning. To me, that's a waste of time. In California, we got people who are doing selfies with their mobiles and falling off cliffs. In Washington, in Seattle, we have people checking their mobile and running into bears. Be careful. Mobile does a lot of good things, accessing learning, but you also can die. Okay? So have some personal constraints if you will. Learning is also more digitally rich. If you look at this picture carefully, you'll see the 1838 picture in Paris with the oldest picture of a human being. And there you see the human being. If I go backwards in the streets there, you can see someone shining. I think she's shining his shoes. At least I hope that's what they're doing in the streets in Paris. If you teach photography, if you teach something related to media, these little snippets are ways to excite students into the discipline. There's so much news today and media today to get students interested in psychology or paleontology or anatomy or photography. So learning is digitally rich today. There's so much that we have access to in film, in audio, animation, simulations. Wikipedia gets young women excited about science and STEM. Someone just created 270 Wikipedia profiles of famous women in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So that's, some classes in Indiana, public health classes, are adding to Wikipedia sites, updating, enhancing the quality, right? So there's that push as well. Many universities today have departmental projects to update Wikipedia. So learning is more social. Vygotsky said we learn on a social plane first, and then we move to intrapsychological plane. Well, Facebook has created a new portal to showcase the social side of learning, if you will.
Let's see what we've got.
We might have to turn this down again.
Hey, portal, call Lauren. Wait, it's moving.
Over here.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, past it like crooked. That was Renzo listening. Now, you have it, right?
That might be. There we go.
Mark of the world, Good luck, Tal. Hey, Casey. It's nice to see you today.
There's a lot of these tools today, whether it's from Facebook or Google. I use Zoom for synchronous interactions with people to have learning become much more socially engaging, if you will. This is only going to increase. Bandwidth possibilities have gone up from 20 years ago when people worried I was going to take down the internet by combining two video conferencing systems together. They literally thought we were going to take down the internet. And we did one of the most unique things, combining PictureTel and CUC meetings back in 1995. Today, we just yawn with this stuff. I'm combining video conferencing systems together in my class using Zoom and Cisco systems. No one blinks an eye today. Learning is much more visual than ever before, as you'll see from Microsoft here, recreating history, if you will, for all of us.
Today, right now, historical sites have disappeared, but artificial intelligence can help us bring history back to life.
If you don't know where you come from, you don't know where it goes. We use Microsoft AI to help us reproduce historical places.
I need to make it possible because it's so important to do. To recreate the sites, we have to stitch hundreds of pictures one by one.
With Microsoft Artificial Intelligence,
We are able to stitch hundreds of thousands of pictures in one night. Before, it was just a representation of the site. With this technology, you can go in, you can experience it.
let's go in another place. I'm ready for the next one.
Artificial intelligence lets us experience our past. It helps us create our future.
So learning is more visual, and you can see that live and well there. Now, I want to point out, if you download these slides, there are a number of other videos I'm not showing you here from Microsoft and other places, or there's longer versions of all these. I'm pulling out pieces because I have a limited time in which to present it in here. Learning is more visual with maps. There's a website called Geo Awesome Maps of the Day, where there's a map about Europe, and this one here, if you look carefully on the left-hand side, it has a European map with other cities around the world that are at the same latitude. So the same latitude as Ireland, as Dublin would be Edmonton, Canada. Same latitude as Spain, Madrid would be New York City. Same latitude as Helsinki would be Anchorage, Alaska. So it's kind of an interesting map. We got another map up here showing us where marijuana is legal in the United States, so where elephants are in Africa. Maps are about visualizing things, are one way to understand content rather than just reading about the content, right? And so recently, Geo Awesome Maps of the Day has a different map every day. It's a really cool website. Last month there was a map showing cities in the United States where if you just moved 1 kilometer, 1 mile different, your whole education system would be different. It shows where kids are disadvantaged or advantaged based on where they live in different cities in the United States. A very awesome map, and it helps understand how neighborhoods shape people's lives. Learning is more adventurous. I forgot my microphone. Learning is more adventurous. And so, has anyone been to Minnesota, where they talk funny up there? Yeah, you've been to Minnesota. My friend Aaron Daring's from Minnesota. He goes on expeditions to the North Pole and up on Greenland and Iceland and all sorts of places. So Aaron has adventure learning, and kids follow him in his adventures with the dogs and the Polar Husky Project. He has Earth Education, looking at climate change around the world. He has geoauthentic learning, looking at geography around the world, the Louvre, the Golden Gate Bridge, and where they are geographically. He has a project called North of 60, where they look at cultures north of 60 degrees latitude, like these kids there, and they interview them. He has a project on climate change, and he's the only one I subscribe to in Twitter. And his website's called ChasingSeals.com. If you subscribe to him in Twitter, you can see him on sleds in the Baffin Islands or northern Canada, talking to his class in Minnesota, where they talk funny, yeah, you betcha. And he's interacting from a tent. He's a crazy man. He's a great keynote, by the way, if you ever get a chance to bring him here. He's a great speaker. This is a view of what the ice cap looked like in 1984. He just tweeted that a couple weeks ago. This is what the ice cap looks like today. Let's go look at that again. Do you think our current administration should take a look at this? Yes. Do you think our president would understand that there is a climate problem going on? If you look at the 1-year ice, the 2-year ice, the 3-year ice, the 4-year ice, the 5-year ice from 1984 and then compared to today, we've got a problem. El Presidente, we have a problem. This is being filmed, so I won't name names, but you know who I mean. Anyhow, Aaron is someone you might want to subscribe to on Twitter as well. And he's a very engaging person. Learning is more adventurous. The woman on the left-hand side there was the first woman to run the Boston Marathon, and she dressed as a man. They tried kicking her off the track, but others supported her to get through. As you can see in the middle image here, she made it through. Now, 50 years later, she ran the Boston Marathon again this year. The man on the right-hand side, all his family had died when he was in his 80s, and he started running marathons. At age 101, he retired from running marathons. Last year, he came out of retirement at age 104 to run marathons again. If you teach fitness, and you have a Fitbit, right? If you teach anything about athletics or fitness, the news, something like this, or the woman who's over 100 years old who set the record for running the 100-meter dash at age 100 and something, right? Get people excited and inspired and all this stuff today. Learning is also more game-like, whether there's simulation games, little image, cheap little slides, not full video kind of games in business from my friend Clark Aldrich, short sims, or we're using Kahoot on your mobile devices and getting kids interacting by guessing answers with their mobiles. We're using Slido to rank questions, all sorts of little tools out there. Learning is more immersive. Here we've got a teacher looking over the top of her student classroom, and she gets the learning analytics for every student by wearing a headset. She can see what questions they're getting right, what questions they're getting wrong. This is a fascinating new age of personalizing learning, with augmented reality and AI and so forth, having floating symbols above their, I mean, that's pretty bizarre, but this is what's happening. Live surgery online today. You can get online live surgery, the HoloLens from Microsoft. So we can see if we can get this to play as well. Oh, it went too far. We have to go back to the beginning. there's more to this one, but again, for the sake of time, I'll move on. But learning is more immersive. Also with Google Cardboard, kids doing field trips like this.
All right, who wants to see a volcano? 3, 2, 1. Look at that lava, look at that smoke coming out of that. Or take your airplane and fly over the tornado.
What do you think?
These are asteroids here.
We're learning about DNA, genes, things that we can't see. And so the most exciting thing for me with the AR technology was that I could see kids get an aha moment that I couldn't get by just telling them about it.
So there's more again to this particular video, you can watch more, but virtual field trips. Immersing kids in what it's like to go in American Civil War, to go to Gettysburg, or Revolutionary War, to go to the Washington crossing the Delaware or something. So the second set of 10 are about pervasive access. So does anyone have the word informal, global, free, video-based, open, synchronous, ubiquitous, direct from experts, online, or immediate? Any of those words? No. Okay, we'll move on. Ubiquitous. When I was in Seoul, Korea in May, people told me it's the ubiquitous city, and it is the ubiquitous city. When I was in Taipei the first time in 2005, the internet was so-so. Today, Taipei is really ubiquitous. I mean, it's got internet all over the place, right? When you go to Korea, you go to Taipei today, Starbucks are really not Starbucks anymore. Today, Starbucks are study places, meeting spaces, collaborative spaces. And so in Korea, they named some of these spaces the idea space, the study cafe, the meeting place. And you can rearrange and have, more team-based on one floor, more social, more individual on another floor. Many universities are doing this today. When I go to Glasgow, Scotland, I see buildings every level of the study centers of different kind of learning, social, individual, collaborative, counseling, whatever. Also Yonsei University in Korea, same thing. If you go into the library, every level of the library is a different kind of learning. We're now thinking about space differently and access to learning differently. Informal spaces, whether we're in Australia, whether we're in Japan, or China, or Sweden, or the UK, or Canada. Every place I visit is creating informal learning spaces, breakout spaces. No longer just relying on traditional classroom spaces to learn. We're now rethinking all the space utilization on our campuses. At Indiana, we call it the Mosaic Project, across all 8 campuses, in fact. Learning is also more global. And this is, I wish I had time to show the whole thing. I'm just going to pull a snippet out of here. This is called CNN Speaking Exchange, where retired people in Chicago give mentoring to kids in Brazil to help them learn English language. And this one's really inspiring. So again, I wish I had a bit more time to show this one, but I want to show pieces of it. Let me click ahead here.
Hello.
Who is that? Heidi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
How are you today? I'm good. How are you? It's the first time that I'm talking to someone from another country. I'm very excited to be doing this.
I look like I'm only 25, but I'm a mate.
Do you have sisters and brothers? No, I'm only child.
Only one. Oh, you poor fellow.
I live with my old brother. He has 23 years.
Do you know, instead of saying he has 23 years, you could say he is 23 years old.
I tried to go to Lula there next week, I think, in Brazil, but my mom didn't let me.
You got a good mom.
Good morning, dear Julia. Good morning to you.
This is your dad? That's me and my wife, when we were young. Oh, you're good looking. And you're still good looking.
My first destiny is the United States, of course, because I wanted to put better my English.
Well, you do very well, I must say.
Are you planning someday to go to Brazil? Well, I would like to. You can stay in my house if you want.
Oh, excuse me a second. You are incredible. Obrigado.
You are my new granddaughter, and I love you.
I love you too.
And if you were here, I would give you a big hug.
Oh yeah, let's hug.
Bye. Bye.
So learning is more global today. And I have my students do many global projects. This is a new age of connectedness, if you will. There's a new tool called Chatterbox, which gets refugees to teach others their language. They get employed. There's a lot of interest in how to help refugees get skills they need, but here they're using existing skills. There are code camps and codeathons and hackathons to equip refugees and prisoners with coding skills so when they get out of prison they can, and I'll show that here next, coming up. So learning is more global. Chatterbox is a new tool for helping refugees get employed and win awards. Learning is more immediate, and so when dinosaurs are discovered today, it gets into books quicker than it ever did before. It gets into schools quicker than it can get into books. Here's a new dinosaur that was discovered called Zool. Zool's out of the Ghostbusters movie. So let's see if I can get this to play as well.
Hey, doggy! You want some food?
Again, there's more to it than that, just a little fun little, but we have so the July fossil, first gigantic dinosaur dug in Gentia prima, found in Argentina. Every week there's a new dinosaur that seems to be discovered. That Titanosaur, the largest dinosaur ever in Patagonia, in south of Brazil and Chile. It can't even fit in the Smithsonian. The head sticks out of one room, the tail sticks out of another room. We also have the longest neck dinosaur, doesn't fit in the basketball stadium. The Jar Jar Binks dinosaur from Star Wars, the Savanosaurus. I mean, every week there's something new. Even this little guy that was hunted by the T-Rex. They found that the T-Rex actually can do collaborative planning. The species on the left was a surprise, found in the Sahara Desert where they didn't think dinosaurs even existed. Now this is not a dinosaur over here on the right. This is one of the oldest human ancestors. It was the size of a pebble, and it had a big mouth. So they figured it has roots to politicians somehow. It's DNA somewhere. We also have Smeagol from Lord of the Rings. You know Lord of the Rings. I was hanging out with the person who translated Lord of the Rings to Chinese the other day. Smeagol. Okay. We also, just a couple days ago, I was reading online CNN, and they had a Siberian unicorn that was not really a unicorn. They call it a unicorn. It's more like a rhinoceros type, so it's not really a horse-like, but somewhere in between, that once walked the earth the same time as humans. They actually thought it had died out before humans were around. It didn't die out as early as they had the scientists originally thought. When I got here a week ago, I got an email from New Learning Times from Columbia University. Columbia University has a bi-weekly or monthly newsletter on new technologies. This newsletter was talking about a new camera that they can get to work under the water because they figured out how animals negotiate the ocean depths. They created a camera using the same kind of technology. So red indicates strongly polarized light, blue shows unpolarized light. So they're able to build a camera. The new camera will help researchers learn more about how animals use polarized light in their natural habitat. What's interesting about this is not just the camera discovery that they made to look at sea creatures, but that they have a discussion wrapped around it. Today, we can have video discussions, what's called a dialogue. So not just watching something, but engaging or annotating video or chopping it up in YouTube chop. TubeChop will let you create small snippets. Dialogues will let you do discussions. And then there are annotation tools and other things. So it's not just a talking head. Learning is more video-based with Flipgrid. Flipgrid is a tool also created at the University of Minnesota from my friend Charlie Miller. Charlie no longer works at Minnesota because he just sold his company to Microsoft. Microsoft will now give away Flipgrid. Flipgrid has threaded video discussions, very short video discussions on different topics, okay? And like 90 seconds. So you post a question, and this is my friend Mark Kircher, who Lori knows, and my friend Chris Devers and Tom Reeves and others talking before the conference, setting up a conference, having a discussion in Flipgrid. Flipgrid is basically threaded video discussions as opposed to threaded text discussions. I prefer video discussions, personally. You feel more engaged by them than just reading a text. And so that's why you can see right here, they just sold in June to Microsoft. And at the eLearn conference last month in Las Vegas, the founders of the company came to host a special night explaining the evolution of this tool. They had a fireside chat, so I learned a lot about Flipgrid and the development of Flipgrid. There's also a synchronous tool that I'm experimenting with called Shindig. Shindig is a tool that's my friend Brian Alexander there on the left uses every week in his Future Trends forum. He brought me in a couple of times. He brought my Vice President Brad Wheeler in a couple of times. And he brought the head of EDX in once there on the right. What you have is a main event at the top, and then you can take your picture, connect it with someone else, have a video chat, multiple video chats while a main event is going on. It's a private video chat tool. Now this one is the only tool I'm showing that is not free. It's still in beta as far as I know. It might have free beta versions, but I'm not sure how this will be priced. Learning is more synchronous, as I said, with prisoners in San Quentin. Today, those prisoners in San Quentin can get synchronous.
Once I started to get it, and I was like, oh man, this is cool, this is pretty cool, I can get this.
I am right now currently at the Ventura Youth Correctional Facility. I am in a class where we do a bunch of coding. It's called The Last Mile. Well, I mean, if you really want the basics of it, all we're trying to do is sit on a chair and type all day. But really what we're doing is we're just writing a whole bunch of programs and stuff, like using JavaScript and HTML, CSS. Those all mean something, but trying to be foreign languages to other people. And basically, new games, I always want to know how to make them, so I was just like, hey, it's not a way to learn how to do that.
So these coding camps, hackathons, code.org, and now this training of prisoners to get people's skills. There are jobs in programming, highly paid jobs. And so here you're giving people a chance to succeed in society, if you will, through synchronous as well as asynchronous forms of technologies. Learning is also more online. Graduate student numbers are in the orange at the top. Undergraduate is below that. And you can see in the United States alone, more than 6 million people are learning online. The growth in the United States today is online or blended, not face-to-face. And so you can see the numbers there that came out in February from a free report from Online Learning Consortium. You see Indiana numbers as well back in November last year. You see the numbers there, the growth of online learning, 95,000 IU students, of which almost 30,000 take one class or more online. Now we have the growth of mega universities because of online learning. You can see the growth in New Hampshire there. Southern New Hampshire University has just exploded. 2 weeks ago, this report came out of their growth. This is brand new data. Also in California, they're not just fighting fires, but Jerry Brown there. And one of the last things Jerry Brown did as governor. Now, he used to be governor in the 1970s. His father used to be governor and senator and things like that. He wanted to be a priest, I think, but he decided to become as governor, and then he became the mayor of Oakland and other. Now he's governor one last time. He may run for president at age 80. Well, who knows? I wish he would. The last thing he did, or one of the last things, is to create a online community college. Online community colleges in California to get people ramped up with the skills that they need. So we've gone through an evolution of e-learning from 1994, just stuff on the web, when Netscape went public, April 4th, 1994, to April 4th, 2001, when MIT decided to put all their courses on the web. Charles Vest said, let's make it free. To 7 years later, you notice there's just 7-year changes here. 7 years, 7 years, 7 years, 7 years. 2008, the first MOOC was offered. 2015, a report came out on personalizing learning from MIT. There's a change every 7 years. The world's become open for learning. As this guy said earlier, the world's become open to learning. Let's see if he'll repeat that for us.
The world is really open to learning.
Thank you. So, my book, which came out in 2009 about the open world, spells we all learn. We all learn 10 trends. Mobile learning, ebooks, online learning, open access stuff. You know, I have a chapter on each one. The book's in Chinese, simplified Chinese, and in English. This book, as I said earlier, the tech variety is free and simplified thanks to Beijing Normal. and the Open U of China has it in paper version. So I've got 3 books now in Chinese available. Anyhow, the world's become open for learning. And as I go to Singapore, people greet me like this. And when I go to Thailand and Bangkok, people greet me like this. And when I go to Illinois, again, I don't like Illinois, but they greet me anyways. And I go to Indiana and Indianapolis. And then when I was down in Kaohsiung on Monday, this is last Monday, at the conference, everyone's greeting me like that. So that means that I need to have everyone hold their arms up in the air for me. I'll get everyone's picture here. Okay, I'm counting 3. Let's see how far back I can get. You're going to have to sneak over a little bit. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Wait a minute. Someone sent me a note just when I was looking. Let's try it again. 1, 2, 3.
Maybe we'll get a shake our hand too. Like that.
There we go. Got it. Thank you. Sorry. Someone sent me a note, Kakao Talk, just as I was social media. So learning's become more free and open, whether it's free textbooks, open textbooks, right? There's over 100 countries using OpenStax from Rice University. Over 1,170 non-US schools using the Open Textbook Project from Rice University. You can see the number of campuses from the Open Textbook Network out of the University of Minnesota as well. You can see books like chemistry, biology, algebra, geometry, introductory college and introductory high school, secondary school classes. They're starting with that, so maybe you can have free textbooks in your first year of college, in effect, or your last year of high school. At Indiana, we have a digital textbook project that saves students money, as you can see there. Now, students are going online with MOOCs to learn for free. This gentleman on the left-hand side, he was a teenager in Mongolia learning from a class, like a pretty advanced level class on engineering, electrical engineering. She was also learning online from Taiwan. The 2 of them, he did so well, he got a perfect score that they invited him to MIT. 140,000 students in the class, 600 got perfect scores, he was among them. She also was invited to Code Camp. He got accepted into graduate school for free. I think she did as well, but he's now a student in MIT, learning for free, anyhow, got a scholarship. There's an organization called Modern State Alliance, which is repackaging free content to create courses, free classes, to get people advanced placement credits. So you can take advanced in English or physics or chemistry. What they'd like to do is have enough free content that they can get the first year of college free. Learning is more direct from experts. Whether we're talking this woman here who created VIP Kid, which has teachers from the US teaching English to kids in China, or we have a tool called Teach Me Now, where you sign up to learn whatever you want to learn, and here's your teachers who will teach you something. Whether it's business classes, or it's programming classes, or whatever. And now you can learn from MOOCs. This gentleman's teaching a MOOC on bipedalism. There are 10,000 MOOCs. In my database, we have 3,000 MOOC instructors for our researches. The third area that's exchanging and growing is customization, personalization. So learning's more massive, more blended, more self-directed, more flipped, more personal, more competency-based, more on-demand, modifiable, and modular. And so we can change our classrooms around today. It's more modular-based. This classroom on the left used to be our swimming pool at Indiana.
Really?
Yeah, Tina may remember. It's now a training center for training in technology, speed dating in technology. Well, our classrooms today are modifiable. Okay? Our classrooms let us write on the walls, move our chairs around, right? You can see the wall here, this is all glass. We now have 4 walls of marker boards in some of our rooms. We can write on them, change the chairs around and the space around. The spaces are changing. Learning's more on demand today. Google's got a project called Talk to Books, where they've scanned in tens of thousands of books. You can type any question in Talk to Books, and it'll give you an answer with the page number from the book where they got the answer. So, and that will only increase. Pretty cool website. It's actually, you'll have to type it for a Google search. The real link is books.google.com/talktobooks. Just type in Talk to Books, and you'll get there. Learning's more blended. Now, you might wonder why I have beer up here when it says blended learning, but the reason I have beer up there is because at Portland State University, They have their top degree is in beer making, and it's a blended degree. They learn on the weekends face-to-face. During the week, it's online. And if I own a condo in Portland, my son lives in it, every corner has a beer place in Portland, and so it's a very successful program, if you will. Learning is also more personalized from AI. This is a short video clip that's in Chinese. Let's see if I can get this one. Yeah.
所使用的主要的2个 APP， 老师在课前备课的时候，可以在我们的 Pad 上进行作业的布置。这里直接可以看到学生面同学到题的一个作答情况，看到他这个题目是做错了。并且我们可以对一些题目直接看到它整个我们系统批改是到达步骤级别的。 然后你可以看到这套事件上面所涉及到的每一个细节的知识点的一个正确率情况。你可以看到，如果是正确率比较低的，像这个知识点，我接下来可以进行重点讲解。使用我们的自动批改系统呢，就可以使得老师从繁重的批改作业任务中解脱出来，进而有更多的时间去关心每一个学生。
I'll stop that one there for the sake of time as well, but you can see that AI is something that's being focused in on around the world today to give people personalized feedback and to analyze their errors that they might make, the bugs in their thinking and so forth. There also are tutoring systems being built, in this case tutoring for the SAT in the United States, but the GRE, the TOEFL, and other kinds of things as well. We also have tools being built for essay grading. This one called Grade Scope from the University of Michigan, you can see it's had 175,000 students, 550 colleges. We also have PDAs being developed so that you can ask questions wherever you are.
Alexa, accept the call. Hey, Mom.
Just ask to watch Amazon Video, YouTube, movie trailers, and more.
Alexa, play number 3.
Okay.
Alexa, reorder diapers.
Your last order was Pampers 160 count. Would you like me to reorder it?
Yes.
This is Drop-In, an easy way to be together.
So tools for getting personalized answers, if you will. If we have PDAs, and if I have Batman and Superman in my pocket, which I do, and with if they someday have a terabyte of data, if I have all the world's data in my pocket, if I have a PDA next to me, as you can see the gentlemen in universities today, they have a PDA next to them. I have 2 Google Homes at home. If we have all this factual knowledge next to us, what should we be teaching? What should we be learning? What should education be like? What is this age of education 4.0 if the basic facts are all around us? If we have our mobile devices, you have your Fitbit, everything for the basic who, what, when, where, why information, why are we testing people on basic facts anymore? Why aren't we going for problem-finding skills, decision-making skills, and other things? If our TAs of the future are going to be bots, chat bots, at Georgia Tech, they're testing out a chatbot initially called Jill Watson, like IBM Watson. The students didn't know the difference between the computer feedback and the human feedback. In fact, they most thought that computer feedback was better than human feedback, okay? And so if learning's on demand, just when you want it, okay, well, this is a new age. If we can translate our work into other languages with Google Translate, has anyone seen Google Translate? Be careful, because if you're in China, it might come out like this. But the second language acquisition is a steady process. If you take a cure to do, that is chronic diseases and even healthcare, unlike acute disease, once the recipe to treatment, the consequences will soon be reflected. That's the kind of papers my students from China are turning into me. They make no sense at all. They use Google Translate. They have all these cool words that show up that I've never used before, and they can't even define the words, but they write the paper in English, they translate it, they write it in Chinese, they translate it to English and turn it in. And I'm like, don't do that. I can catch it right away. So Google Translate does work up to a point, and now we have Google Duplex. Google Duplex will let you have conversations, if you will, and will order you things.
We think AI can help with this problem.
Point out here.
So let's go back to this example. Let's say you want to ask Google to make you a haircut appointment on Tuesday between 10 and noon. What happens is the Google Assistant makes the call seamlessly in the background for you. So what you're going to hear is the Google Assistant actually calling a real salon to schedule an appointment for you. Let's listen.
How can I help you? Hi, I'm calling to book a haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd. Sure, give me 1 second. Sure, what time are you looking for around? At 12 p.m. We do not have a 12 p.m. available. The closest we have to that is a 1:15. You have everything between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. Depending on what service she would like, what service is she looking for? Just a woman's haircut for now? Okay, you have it at 10 o'clock. 10 a.m. is fine. Okay, what's your first name? The first name is Lisa? Okay, perfect. So I will see Lisa at 10 o'clock on May 3rd. Okay, great. Thanks, great. Have a great day. Bye.
That was the real call you just heard. The amazing thing is the assistant can actually understand the nuances of conversation. We've been working on this technology for many years. It's called Google Duplex. It brings together all our investments over the years in natural language understanding, deep learning, text-to-speech. By the way, when we are done, the assistant can give you a confirmation notification saying your appointment has been taken care of.
So learning's more on demand, if you will. We're almost through this first talk, by the way. Learning's more massive. You can see the numbers going up, over 10,000 MOOCs being offered right now. People who are saying MOOCs are dead, they're not anywhere close to dead. And now we have scientists saying never stop learning. Never stop learning. This is just the new tagline of today. We're in the learning century. This is part of what we do. This is what it means to be human, is to continue to learn. Those of us as educators almost have guaranteed jobs for life, because we're going to have billions more people needing education in different ways. And so never stop learning is going to be a tagline for everybody. Everybody's life is going to be, constantly impacted. This little magazine I bought says we're going to be living to 100. Most people born today have an opportunity to live to age 100. If that's the case, they're going to need skills, reskilling, upskilling constantly throughout life, and we need new models of education to deal with that, right? To live as we live longer, MOOCs might be part of the solution. They are not the solution. The problem was MOOCs were overhyped, and people thought they'd replace universities, and that's not happening. So many people are disappointed they're not replacing, and they're saying MOOCs have failed. They've not failed, they've did a critical role. I'm a product of distance learning. I took TV courses and correspondence courses to get into grad school. I had one psychology class. I needed 15 credits to get into grad school at Wisconsin. So I had to take all sorts of other things, and then the person who taught me these classes at Wisconsin hired me to build a class on, and I'll come to that in talk number 2 on critical thinking. So learning's more massive. There are now, this says 9.4 thousand courses, actually more than 10,000 courses. It says there's 78 million students, there's now more than 90 million students learning online. So huge numbers. Get cozy with the class, another tagline, get cozy. No one ever told me to get cozy with the class when I was growing up. But now you can take courses in photography, and lifestyle, and health, and fitness, whatever you want from Udemy. Udemy is a place where your grandmother could offer a course, your grandfather could offer a course, your brothers, anyone can offer a class at Udemy out of San Francisco at any price. Now my colleagues and I, Dr. Tom Reeves, in the middle there, the smiley guy, Tom Reynolds in white, Dr. Mimi Lee in black, and then myself. So Tom Reynolds at National University, California, Tom Reeves at Georgia, Mimi Lee at Houston, myself from Indiana. I have a couple books on MOOCs and open education around the world. And we've been working, actually, we're working on a follow-up called MOOCs and Open Ed in the Developing World, or Emerging Economies. In there we have a chapter from Paul Kim, whose picture I had up earlier, and he creates an ecology of learning, where students support each other. Students translate content to other languages. Students create lower bandwidth videos so people who don't have this rich access can download the videos. He's creating a temporary, spontaneous mini ecosystem in his MOOC, where students support each other. With 40,000, or he had 20,000 people in the MOOC, he could not give feedback to everyone, but peers can give feedback to everyone. My friend Chuck Severance did a MOOC where at the end, he had a commencement for his MOOC with certificates that they handed out. And as you can see, I'm walking with you in this commencement. And we gave, I was his commencement speaker. I will stop this here, but you can get a sense of it as he walks into his office for his commencement to his students. And he hands them their certificates. But he has office hours in cafes now. He has office hours in hotel lobbies. He flies to Manila. He'll fly to Barcelona. He'll fly to Seoul, Korea. He flies to Taipei. And he meets whatever students want to come, and he has office hours with them. This is a whole unique area of teaching and learning today. He has 3 MOOCs, one on Python programming, a top 10 MOOC in the world. He has another MOOC on the history of the internet and technology. He had one of the first syndicated television shows in the 1990s and 2000s on the internet. He used a lot of the video for his MOOC. He has another MOOC on programming for everybody, teaching teachers how to do programming. So he has 3 very popular MOOCs from Michigan and more. Learning is more massive. When data analysts today, more of them learn from MOOCs than from formal classes. We're in a changing world. We can't build the courses fast enough and programs fast enough, so MOOCs become that alternative. And now some people, places like Degree, are giving competency-based education. They're looking at providing a certificate for your MOOC learning, providing certificates for watching TED Talks. If you watch enough TED Talks, you might get a certificate for it at Degree, certificates of completion. Learning's more modular, so we have small bits of learning. We're learning what's called a micro master's, taking 4 classes from MIT or 5 classes to get a micro master's, not a full master's, but part of a master's. Maybe something on hotel management, maybe something on nutrition, maybe something on self-driving cars, maybe something on data science or project management or whatever. Nano degrees, micro credentials, certificates, Coursera, my inbox back in June. These are the courses I can sign up for, whether it's algorithms, statistics, programming, deep learning, machine learning. They think I want to learn. I don't want to learn any of those classes. Those are hard. But anyways, you get what I'm saying. They're offering discounts, summer discounts for MOOCs. But MOOCs are like library books. Sometimes you read the whole thing, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you read a few pages and you put it back. So people are so concerned about completion rates. I think that's misguided. What we need to look at is drop-in rates, not drop-out rates. We need to look at how many people sign up, not how many people don't finish. There's no notion of finishing. Finishing might be just learning from one section of the class. We have all sorts of purposes. I've been studying this, all sorts of motivators for why people sign up for MOOCs or OpenCourseWare. It's quite a wide gamut of reasons. So here are the 30 ways that learning is changing in front of our eyes, okay? So no one had picked those, no one had any of the words. So I have to give one, I have 2 copies of the books left, so I will pick the 2 professors in the room. The 2 of you will get the last 2 books, okay? We'll get you afterwards and get you that. So these are, learning's changing all around us. Mobile, game-based, adventurous, hands-on, immersive, free, all these things. If just one of these things had happened, it'd be a revolution. The fact is, we've got all these things happening simultaneously. If just one person learned online in 1950, that person would be Time Magazine Person of the Year. Today, millions upon millions learn online or blended. They collaborate. They use video. They are in synchronous forums. They're in chat rooms. They're using virtual reality and immersive learning, augmented reality. All these things are happening, which makes those of us in the field of educational technology excited because, wow, there's a lot of people we can be teaching and helping become productive citizens in society. But does all this give you a headache? Maybe it does give you a headache. It gives me a headache at times keeping up. People want to know how I keep up with all of this, right? And so we're at a jumping off point today. As you can see in Shenzhen, China, they really didn't know what I was doing there, but we're at a jumping off point. I'm going to have everybody stand up with me. We're in the room with me. All the people watching virtually streaming, everyone stand up. Everyone stand up around the world. We'll get the streamers to stand up and do something with us. And I'm going to get the ladies to help you out in the room. All the ladies in the room are going to jump with me. All the men do not jump yet, because I know you have gimpy legs. So all the ladies on the count of 3 are going to jump. 1, 2, 3, jump. I said all the ladies in the back. Okay, now all the men. 1, 2, 3, jump. And everyone together. 1, 2, 3, jump. One more time as high as you can go. Okay, you can have a seat. We're at a jumping off point. We're moving into this new age of education 3.0, 4.0, education 2020, whatever you want to call it. Things are heating up. This is My Precious. Some of you have now got a copy of My Precious. My son did the cover. I worked on it for 15 years. So beautiful. Precious. Okay, the revolution is coming within reach, but I need your help. I cannot do this alone. So on the count of 3, everybody online, everybody streaming, everybody in the room are going to say, I cannot do this alone. So on the count of 3, we're going to say, I cannot do this alone. 1, 2, 3. I cannot do this alone. I cannot do this alone. I cannot do this alone. One more time. I cannot do this alone. No, you can't. I can't do it alone either. I need all your help and support. We're in this age of openness, open education. The world's become open for everyone, but we need to do more. We need to provide new ways of access. We need to find new ways of getting awareness of what's possible. If people aren't aware, they're not even going to try it. So awareness comes first, then comes resistance, then comes understanding, then comes use, then comes sharing, then becomes advocacy. We're still stuck on stages 1 and 2, just lack of awareness, okay? And the resistance phase, right? So chapter 14 in this book is about supporting instructors who might be hesitant or a little resistant. And then the other chapters relate to how to implement all these ideas in the real world, how to motivate and so forth. So my notes are up at trainingshare.com under archive talks, or my homepage, kurtbonk.com. The free book is up at that website right there that you see, TEC-Variety. Anyone who's watching can download the book right now. We've had more than 100,000 people around the world download the whole book, another 100,000 part of the book. So we're happy with that, but please, it's free. Why not? So this is an exciting age. It's an exciting time. Thank you for inviting me in for part 1 of this session. Education 2020, what's the title of this talk? Whatever it is. The future starts now for all of us, right? I hope you all can make a difference, and I'll open up for some questions, but thank you very much. So comments or questions? Yeah.
I think the majority of your presentation is really from the learning aspect, or from the learner. We, some of the audiences are teachers or professors. How do we teach them?
Well, this book is designed for instructors. It's got 10 motivational principles that link together. You don't have to use all 10 to be successful, but it has a chart in here that indicates the degree of time, risk, and cost. You can look for low risk, low cost, low time, simple things that you can do. There are 100 ideas, about 20 or 30 are low risk, low cost, low time. And chapter 14 is about supporting instructors. So this book is intended for just that question. So thank you for asking that. Because you asked me the question, you get a book. Come on up, and we'll put you on camera here with me. And then I'll sign it for you afterwards. So we can get you closer to me here so they can see you. There we go. Okay, so thank you very much. Okay.
Very good, by the way.
Okay, good to meet. So in effect, that's one thing. One is to have some examples. That has many examples. One is to model. Somebody takes a leadership within your department And then within the department, you might have 10 or 20 resources that you utilize and share within your, and maybe in department meetings, you end a department meeting with what you're doing. And that's what we did at Indiana. We ended department meetings with what they were doing with technology in their classrooms. And that, in effect, was a mini celebration. We also have recognitions for teaching and learning with technology. So we also have that. We also have Technology Day on our campus, where faculty have posters of what they're doing with technology in this student union, and they're showcasing it there. We also have Thursday afternoon lunches, free lunches, where you hear from a couple people and what they're doing, and so you learn from other faculty and other disciplines. We also have 8 campuses with a video conference across all 8 campuses. Someone in our Chicago area office, what's called IU Northwest, might share with people in Bloomington or people in Indianapolis. So there's a variety of things you can do to ramp people up, but it has to start with the awareness. It has to be systemic. It can't be just like this one-off event. It has to be a number of things that combine together. You can do some trainings. I have a different talk that's all about that book is all about what you can do specifically. This was a big picture talk. This was not the specific hand-holding, but I do that in a lot of places too. In fact, I did one last week. So combining all these different things to create a systemic approach. It has to be systemic in nature, or it's going to fail. Okay? And it has to be thought about long-term. Nothing happens overnight. Faculty members should try 1 or 2 new things a semester, not all the things in the book. 1 or 2 new things. And you build on that. You build the momentum. It's incremental change. It's a great question. Other questions for me? Comments? Yeah?
We just worry about the robot-aided education.
Yeah.
So how about your book?
So you're worried about
We say a robot-aided education. It means use a robot to aid, help our teaching. So how about your book? Writing about this?
So someone help me.
Did you write about any?
Did I write about robotics?
Yes.
In this book. So in my earlier book, on the World is Open book, I did touch on that. That book was written in 2009. This book, I didn't write about robots, and I also didn't write about special needs, people with hearing impairments, visual impairments, and things like that. So a critique of this book is that it's 4 years old now, robots have taken off and PBAs have taken off. Another critique of this book is that it doesn't cover special needs, but it has tech variety. So indirectly it addresses special needs, but no, I don't cover AI in here or learning analytics or robotics, which have been trends the last 4 years. You could say I need a new book. I have another book with 100 activities that came out before with a model called Read, Reflect, Display, and Do, or R2D2. I was going to do a third book. I started and I gave up. A third book in the trilogy I was calling Blended Learning Ideas. If I was to write a follow-up, so I guess your question is it indirectly a statement? Someone should write a follow-up that includes AI and learning analytics and robotics. What would that include? Yeah. And so I want to write a book called The World is Wide Open. And in that book, eventually, I will include some of that. Yeah. That is so there's a lot of positive things about being in the field. The negative side is stuff you write gets outdated pretty fast, and so that's why I create frameworks. That's why I create models, because the models and frameworks stay with us as the technologies change. So the tech variety model will still be applicable in 10 years or 20 years. The model will be, the examples, they'll be different in 10 years or 20 years. But the frameworks and the models will change, and that's the power. We need to train teachers in these frameworks of how to get them to think about motivating students or addressing diverse learner needs, that kind of thing. More focused on the pedagogical side than the technological side. Great question number 2. You get a book as well, and you've been up here already. I will sign this book for you after the second part of my talk at lunch. We're going to get lunch, right? I will sign both of your books. Thank you very much. Yeah. So, one more question. Let's get one more before I go to part 2. I'm going to do a brief version of part 2, a 20-minute version of part 2. Any more questions? Okay, let me ask this. Give me 3 words of what you learned from that session. 3 words. You might say, Bonk is stupid. No, you might say fun, engaging, interactive. Give me 3 words. Any 3 words from that session? Anyone have 3 words?
For you, fun.
For you, fun. That's 3 words. 3 words.
Chocolate is great.
Chocolate is great. Okay, that's good. 3 words. 3 words. Have no idea. That's 3 words. Okay, good. That's 3 words. Any more 3 words?
Innovation and creativity.
Innovation and creativity. 3 words. Good.
Love to share.
Love to share. Excellent. Huh? I feel good. Now, there's a song you can play. I feel good. I feel good. Okay, any of the guys in the back row, or you guys? Who's gonna give up? No idea too. Okay, that's 3 words. Okay, you have 3 words.
Inspiring. The talk is inspiring.
Talk is inspiring. Somebody's phone's going off here. Okay.
More good knowledge.
More what?
Good knowledge.
More good knowledge. Okay. A photographer. 3 words. No. Okay. Vicki, you got 3 words for me.
Updated, entertaining, and innovative.
Updated, entertaining, and innovative. Okay? Okay. So that's kind of the big picture reason I came here. I also want to briefly talk about my research and about MOOCs. I heard that some people are interested in MOOCs here. And so let me call it the MOOCs talk. This will come up for me. Come on. There we go. So I might need the person's help down below. Did that work? Okay, cool. Now this one has no videos in it, so it's going to be easier for me to go through. Are we still green screened? Do we want to do a stop and go to part 2 or anything, or it's just going to flow and then you'll make 2 videos out of this?
做第2部分吗？
The second part.
就说要不然就现在就结束就可以了。
不是，他是说这个 video 要不要分2段，还是直接往下？
直接就继续拍下来，可以吗？
你说 video 可以啊，可以继续拍。
Just move on. Just move on.
Come here, Vicky.
Get ready to the picture.
You introduce me.
Oh, okay. Let's welcome Professor Bonk today for the second talk. The title of the talk is Most Instructor Research, Motivation, Consideration, and Personalization in the Design of Instruction for the Masses. Let's welcome Professor Bonk.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here in the show today. Yes. MOOCs. We're going to talk about MOOCs. A topic on everybody's mind today. How many of you have learned from a MOOC ever? Taken a MOOC? Lots of you have taken a MOOC. How many of you completed a MOOC? Finished a MOOC? Got a certificate? Almost one. Almost one. I've enrolled in many I've never completed as well. I've also taught a MOOC. I taught the first MOOC for Blackboard about 5 or 6 years ago on how to teach online. Okay? It was interesting. It's interesting to teach. We also got some data from that. I don't think I'm sharing that data in this talk. I've got 7 studies. I'm not going to show all 7 related to MOOCs. So how many of you were happy when you took your MOOC? How many were frustrated when you took your MOOC? Oh, Lori was frustrated. There you're both happy and frustrated. So we've got Sir Charles and Charles. Charles Best on the left from MIT. So let's make all MIT courses on the web for free. Someone at MIT was on a rowing machine. Dr. Richard Liu was on a rowing machine and popped into his head to give away all MIT courses. And he went to the meeting and they said, no, that's not a good idea. And a week later, everyone said, yes, it's a good idea. On the right is Charles Wedemeyer, who changed my life, but I never met him. He helped create the Open U in the UK when Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin, wouldn't do what he was hoping they would do, but they did move into more of an open and flexible environments as well. I took correspondence courses from Wisconsin to qualify for graduate school. So it's Charles and Charles, not Sir Charles, not Prince Charles, not, Charles Wedemeyer and Charles Best have opened the world for learning. Now, Charles Wedemeyer believed in satellite TV in the 1950s. He wrote articles on blended learning in the 1960s. People thought he was the crazy man, but many of the ideas have come to fruition. He believed in moving from eyeball to eyeball learning, earpan to anything else. Non-traditional learning, informal learning. His book, Learning at the Back Door, Reflections on Non-Traditional Learning Across the Lifespan, is a classic. Every sentence is quotable. My students read his book the first week of my emerging learning technologies class. You see this young kid in a Russian school, not allowed in. He was poor, he couldn't afford it, his parents were not rich, he was not allowed into that elitist school. This kid with resources wrapped around him could learn from anything. But today, I can learn from MIT, Stanford, Harvard, Cambridge, Seoul National. You name the university, I can learn from it because there's free contents available. I got a 19 on the ACT exam. I could not be allowed into Lower Potomac State University with my test score. I was so dumb when I was young, okay? But today I can learn from anyone, anywhere, anytime. And MOOCs are part of this. They're not the full solution to this. They're providing us with some resources. Now, Robert Clausen from Wisconsin taught me gifted and talented courses, creativity courses. I took from TV, I took from correspondence with him. When I got to Wisconsin, he hired me to develop a critical thinking course, syndicated nationally across the country. I got inspired from distance learning. We were changing people's lives. He passed away recently after 30 years as my mentor. Sad day, I found out just before coming here. Anyhow, he worked with Charles Wedemeyer, the two of them, and I got a chance to work with him. So I'm kind of connected to Wedemeyer in some ways. But there's a lot of weird stuff, strange stuff going on. Never stop learning. It's just going to never stop learning. When my friend Michael down there in the bottom left is offering MOOCs in Thailand, my friend Chuck Severance is offering 3 of the most popular MOOCs in the world. They're teaching 40,000 students or 10,000 students. When I started at Virginia University, I was teaching in West Virginia. I was having fun with those people. Hi, honey. How you doing? When I was talking about West Virginia, I had 4 students in my class. 4 students, they let the class run. Now we got 40,000 in a class. This is just weird. We start talking about teaching 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, whatever. We've got K MOOCs for Korea. We've got J MOOCs for Japan. We've got Thai MOOCs. We've got P MOOCs. P MOOCs for the Philippines. It's just strange. It's a weird time. These are weird days. Lots of weird stuff going on. I get summer discount. You can sign up today and get a summer discount on your MOOC. Okay, wow, all right. 15% off if you sign up today. It's a strange time. Last Monday, I got an email, Cyber Monday. Literally, I got an email, Cyber Monday. Get a discount on my MOOC. Okay? Strange times. Coursera, the same thing. Weird. They wanted to have courses in accounting, a whole master's program. I've got an undergraduate degree in accounting, and now we got a whole master's via MOOC. Accountants protested online learning, said it'd be boring online. They had protests. It was very boring face-to-face, too. Now they have whole masters online. These are weird things going on. Lots of weird stuff happening. People are making marriage announcements. You see, he has been accepted into Harvard Business Core Program. He's in the MOOC program. That's in their marriage announcements. Some weird things going on. My friend, I interviewed Jim and the guy. He took not 250 MOOCs and counting, but more than 500 MOOCs. And he's got 3 friends who took more than 100. He was robbed at gunpoint of all his computers and technology, his phones. So his friends gave him their computers so he could finish his MOOCs. Okay? He was worried that MOOCs would start charging a fee. So he took as many as he could for free. And he was right. Now they're charging for the certificates. They're charging for the assessments that they didn't at first. This is weird when someone's taking that many classes. It's just weirdness stuff going on. When Chuck Severance has office hours in cafes and in hotel lobbies, that's weird too. When he meets his students in office hours, when he flies around the world. So he's meeting students in Barcelona there on the side there. They reflect on what they learned. My friend Sheila Jaganathan from the World Bank teaches, she has World Bank courses on poverty, climate change, and family planning, and literacy. She's a teacher of the world, as it says. She was featured last month in Chief Learning Officer magazine as a teacher of the world. We are now teachers of the world, not teachers of 4 students in my class. These are weird times. We are now moving to the second phase of MOOCs with credentials, with programs and courses that are, accredited. This is weird as well. MOOCs are not dead at all. We're now moving to a second phase. Corporate training, upskilling for the corporate world, so you can get a promotion at work. There are 30 million people at Coursera last year signing up for MOOCs. We have a Chinese company. Can someone help me pronounce this name of this company? Thank you. Almost 10 million. FutureLearn, the UK, 7 million. EDX, 14 million. This is not like, 10,000 or 20. We're talking the millions. Just weird stuff. We now can take computer science master's degrees from Georgia Tech for under 7,000 USD that cost more than 50,000 face-to-face. Or Illinois is getting a MBA for 22,000, would cost 3 times that face-to-face. So just weird stuff going on, all these trends. My minions are happy with all these trends, right? But you can see the data I had up earlier, how many people, how many courses of MOOCs in open education. The growth rate is just phenomenal, just gigantic happening out there. Lives are changing from MOOCs, and they're taking courses in technology, mathematics, engineering, humanities, social science, business, you name it. And again, my colleagues and I have a book on MOOCs and open education around the world. Mimi Lee, Houston, Tom Reeves, Georgia, and Tom Reynolds from National University. We worked on this for several years, a very long project. One of the chapters in our book was from David Wiley, one of the most famous instructional designers in the world. He helped create some of the first open courseware at Utah State. And now he's got a chapter in our book about the problems of MOOC providers closing off the content, not making it open. It was intended to be open, but they closed the class at a set time. You can no longer access it. We have to pay a fee to get a certificate. He has a chapter in the book. We have a chapter from New Zealand from Maggie Hartnett and Mark Brown from Ireland now. They talk about working with indigenous populations, using your MOOCs to provide context-specific content for indigenous populations in the open to study. So in open to study, they create MOOCs to get people excited, so they sign up for programs. They take a free MOOC and get so excited they might sign up for something more. My friends in Illinois, Karen Swan and her colleagues, have now rated MOOCs. They created a rating system to look at the teacher-directedness or student-directedness, to look at whether it's convergent or divergent, to look at whether it's artificial content or authentic content. They look at the MOOCs from Udacity and Coursera and EDX. These people all have chapters in that book, if you will. So I'm just going through a little bit. The Georgia Tech chapter comes from Richard DeMilo, talking about how they reduced the cost. They took out a lot of cost to create a cost-effective MOOC and program. Paul Kim, again, talking about creating spontaneous mini ecosystems with peer support. Balaji, whose last name I can't pronounce, and Asha Kanwar from the Commonwealth of Learning, talk about agriculture MOOCs, or MOOCs for development, where they get people information about crop rotation, fertilization, and what crops to build in India. Farmers getting not media, not video, but text-based MOOCs. So they learn about farming. They get information as needed, or in Fiji, or some remote parts of the world. My friend Sheila Jaganathan, again, has a chapter on climate change and poverty and prosperity and other things that the World Bank is kind of pushing out. My friend Zuraini Wati Abbas in Malaysia talks about a company called Taylor's University, which offers MOOCs to people in Malaysia and maybe Indonesia as well. We have a chapter on Africa and the African Virtual University, and the point is there most people in Africa don't have access to the internet. Only 6% of Africans could access post-secondary education when this book came out 3 years ago. The goal was to get it closer to what North America and Europe is experiencing. We have PMOOCs, we have XMOOCs, and we have CMOOCs. CMOOCs are lovey-dovey, connectivist. We share, we support, we engage, we collaborate, we share a lot of resources. XMOOCs are more like traditional instruction, deliver, you test. PMOOCs are more like projects, and you work with others on teams and you solve problems, like Paul Kim's MOOC, where students were working on teams to design things. So there's different kinds of MOOCs. They're not just one kind of MOOC. There are also self-directed MOOCs and hybrid MOOCs and other kinds of derivatives of MOOCs. So I first studied personalization of MOOCs, how to personalize the MOOC, and we asked the book authors what they recommend to personalize. And chapter 2's author, Karen Head from Georgia Tech, said, be careful with humor. Be careful with how you place your fingers even. Be careful with how you dress. Be careful that, over-reliance on linear approaches, because some countries and cultures don't use a linear approach to learning. Others talked about translating the content. Paul Kim talked about having students meet locally in a local meetup, in a local cafe, and then supporting each other in small teams. And so Coursera and other companies today are creating meetups in New York Public Library or in cafes. They talk about creating low bandwidth versions of the videos and other kinds of things. Chuck Severance talks about the problem of using metaphors that might be American-centered, and people in Korea or in Nepal or in Egypt might not understand those metaphors. So be careful with also, he said, be careful with showing the lecturer's face if you're going to be dubbing underneath the transcript, and so he never shows his face in some of his, and just has the translation there. I'm not so sure I agree with him on that point. I actually like seeing people's faces. Make slides as word-free as possible, he said. The MOOCs for Development project from Balaji and Asha Kanwar, they talk about providing things in low access, low bandwidth conditions, so not a lot of video, more text-based kinds of things. Sheila Jaganathan says, we try and customize the discussion forums for the region. We have different forums and discussions based on where people are in the world, different topics based on where they are in the world, different moderators based on where they are in the world. They use Google Hangouts in small teams to customize some things. They try and do badging to motivate, give a badge for completion. Melinda Bandalaria, who was in Gashwan with me earlier this week at a conference, she says be careful how you dress, avoid references to religion if you can. Even when English is the primary or secondary language, consider making the MOOC available in other dialects for the other people in the country. Create multiple paths to learn the content. Ray Schroeder at Illinois says you can personalize through small group projects with reflection. So those are some chapters in our MOOCs book, in our initial MOOCs book. Now I want to talk a bit about some research around MOOCs. And I've got 10, maybe we go about 5 or 10 minutes over. We won't go too much beyond noon, but maybe 5 after or 10 after we'll go to. So my former student, Timothy Hugh, who's now in Hong Kong, and has a student studying with me right now back in Indiana, he's one of the most productive people I've ever met. He was more productive than almost any faculty at Indiana before he was a grad student. Even Cain, I mean, this guy's Superman. He's done some machine learning analysis of from Course Talk. Course Talk is a tool to discuss the MOOC, like a course evaluation tool for MOOCs. And he found that in the 10 most highly rated MOOCs, these were the 6 things that people focused in on when they talked about the MOOCs. They talked about problem-centric learning supported by clear expectations. They wanted problem-centric learning. They wanted active learning supported by feedback. Assignments, projects with feedback, not working alone. They wanted somebody to give feedback, whether it's system feedback, instructor feedback, peer feedback, self-feedback. The course resources that cater to participants' needs and preferences. Instructor attributes, passion, enthusiasm, humor, like my Education 2020. Peer interaction, and the instructor availability, which is hard. So like Dr. Severance, who has office hours and meets students, and students meet him and talk about to him. There's research on I should say systematic reviews of the research. These 2 individuals have a study that came out a year ago that show that most research is student-centered, not instructor-centered. Most research is survey-based, some interview, not qualitative. Most research is one piece of data, not 2 or 3 methods. So my team looked at this study We looked at George Feliciano's, my friend did a study. He said that we need to get more ethnographic approaches. We need more qualitative to combine with all the computer log data. We need to understand better how MOOCs are effective or not effective. So he's done a meta-analysis too. My team then decided to do a meta-analysis in one of our first studies. And my colleague, my student, Meena Ju, who's not a PhD yet, she's working on her PhD. And this is Sari from Indonesia, Meena from Beijing Normal originally, Dr. Mimi Lee from Houston did a study with me. I helped out. We looked at how MOOCs can help learners and can be beneficial to instructors. We've got a database of instructors. So instructors are one of 5 main components of MOOCs. The other 4 are learners, topic, material, and context. Few studies have looked at the instructor side. So few studies have looked at the instructor side. So we did a meta-analysis or a systematic review of the research. And we found that most research out there is focused on the student side and it's quantitative, or the design, or the context. Very little is instructor side, okay? Most of it's published in the IRRODL, International Review of Research in Open and Distance Learning, which is SSCI. Computers and Ed, British Journal of EdTech, Online Learning. These are the primary outlets. Most is US or UK, China, some in Taiwan, some in Spain and Turkey. You can see it a little better here. US, some in Taiwan, some in Chile, but most is US centric, some in Belgium. Most is survey, research, some is database, some is interview, not much focus group, not much learning analytics. Most is descriptive, some is inferential, some is content analysis. Things they focus on in the research is motivation, engagement, retention, learner experience, and social side. So that's the first study. We had over 100 research studies we reviewed. We expanded that last year, a few months ago, and found more research recently is qualitative. More research is starting to become qualitative. And still very student-focused, still very design-focused. And so we expanded this again. We did another study. Now we've got all data from 2013 to 2018, and you can see still that same journals that are out there. Still focused mostly of all these studies, 321 studies, most is quantitative, some is mixed, about 80 studies were now qualitative, and there seems to be some more focus at the instructor level. But in China, most research is quantitative. Look at that big. UK, it's more balanced. US is somewhat more balanced, but China, very quantitatively focused, as you can see there. And the journals, we can maybe not look at this last part, because this is 2018, it's still ongoing. But if you look here, you can see the trend is generally more research. It's going up in terms of MOOCs and open education. Most is still survey or log data, platform data. Interviews, this is the majority of what people are looking at. So those are the first couple of studies, first 3 studies. I'm going to pause for a second and see if anyone has a question so far about MOOCs or anything would like to ask me before I go any further. Any comments, questions? Interesting? No? Maybe? People in the remote part of the world, you can text me your 8123. No, I shouldn't give my phone number. Everyone's got my phone number. Okay, find me in WeChat and send me a note or Kakao Talk. Send me a question. I will send you $1 million. Okay.
Are those real?
Yes, they're real. I don't bring fake things. I think we should pass the chocolate back around for everyone here because I don't want to bring all this chocolate home with me. So we also have some we got lunch coming up. Let's pass those around as well. We pass these around as well, please, because I can't bring these all home. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Maybe you can open up one for me and I'll have one, Vicky. Okay. Good deal. Thank you. So who's tired of MOOCs? Maybe the whole world's tired of MOOCs in some way, shape, or form today, right? So study number 4. Study number 4. Good. So now, we're looking at personalized learning. This study just got published a couple months ago in September in the IRODL journal. This is my team, my former team anyhow. This is Sherrie. She's defending her dissertation Tuesday when I go back, right after. She's meeting me in San Francisco airport and we're flying back, so she's looked at language learning online. She's at West Florida. She's finishing, that's Mena and Naja Savar. That's my team, or one of my teams. Looking at MOOCs and open-end. We looked at personalization of MOOCs, and we surveyed 150 MOOC instructors in this study. They're coming from various fields, as you can see. Various sizes of MOOCs. Smaller than we expected. Many were less than 10,000 students in the MOOC. In terms of teaching, had they had experience teaching fully online or blended, most did not have previous experience. So these are people teaching for the first time a MOOC. Were they interested? Were they involved? They were very involved in designing their MOOC. I was surprised by that. They did not give it to someone else to create. They were involved in the design. So many were involved meeting unique learner needs in design phase, not so much in the delivery phase meeting. So they were so in the design phase, they were thinking ahead. While they were teaching, they were not too concerned about their students. They were just trying to survive and teach the dang course, in effect. Feedback was mostly peer feedback, system feedback, tutor feedback. Instructor feedback was much lower. They would die if they gave feedback to everybody. Self-feedback. In terms of AI, the only AI typically was automated grading. The only computer tools built in. They did not use AI for automated alerts for when they weren't participating. They did not use AI to detect plagiarism. They did not use AI for student advice. So AI, even though we hear it's happening, it's not really happening in MOOCs all that much yet today. In terms of instructor interest in personalization, you can see they're very interested in personalizing the MOOCs. In terms of effort of MOOC instructors in addressing multiple cultures, it's kind of diverse, some no, some medium, some yes, in terms of addressing linguistic backgrounds. How do we address diversity? They create transcripts, audio transcripts and video transcripts. They subtitle. They're careful with their language and their hand gestures. They simplify the language. These are some of the things that they relied on and did. Some relied on the discussion forums or supplemental materials to address student needs. They really were not that creative, actually. If you look at some of these things, these are very low. Most of the, the more creative things out there they could do. So optional readings, of course. Options within tasks, okay, fine. This is a chart we're working on, a new article we've not tried to publish yet. I've finished it, my students have not finished it. I finished my version, they've been working on it. So this indicates some of the multimedia that they had embedded in their classes, whether it's animations or screencasts or videos. It indicates what they did in terms of language or feedback or collaboration or accessibility. These are some of the varied things that these different instructors did. So there's emphasis on personalization in the design, not in the delivery. Instructors are interested in personalization in their next, actually many were interested in being trained in how to personalize their MOOCs. Automated grading and feedback is not really being used all that. I mean, automated grading and feedback is the only thing, but most things are not automated. So study number 5. Study number 5 gets at MOOC instructor motivation. What motivates the instructors to teach a MOOC or to redesign a MOOC? And what do they see as their strengths in their MOOC? And so this study had 143 people, and it's a mixed method study in various cultures, Hong Kong, UK, mainland China, Canada, Sweden. This is just some 12 people that we interviewed from the 143. We interviewed 12 people. And in this case, again, they didn't have much experience teaching online previously, or teaching blended. So a lot of these people teaching MOOCs had never taught online before, which is kind of surprising actually, because online's existed for 20 years. The number of MOOCs they had previously designed, most had only done one. A few had done more than one, but most people just do one, like me. I only did one. One was enough. They're not easy. Again, a wide background, medicine and health and computer science being the top, education, language, business, engineering, psychology is in there somewhere, down here, yeah, down there. Chemistry, agriculture, one. You can see the size of MOOCs from less than 5,000 to 5 to 10,000. You can see a range. Most had teaching assistants helping them. Some had no help or support at all. Some were self-paced. I mean, this would be hard, no support. I had 7 TAs. I had 7 TAs helping me. And in the synchronous session, 2 of them would sing songs to my class. They'd play guitar during break time for my online, you know, we'd have these synchronous optional, and I had guitar players, and I had other, really. I was fully involved in designing the course. Most people were involved in designing. I enjoyed very much designing the course. Yes, they did. Motivation. I want to experience this. I want to innovate. I want to get students access. I want to build my institutional reputation. I have a personal interest. My university twisted my arm. I'm conducting research. There's a wide range of reasons why they're teaching a MOOC. It's not just one reason. Build national identity. Get tenure, only 2 people. No. So I'm currently doing a study on professional development and whether it impacts tenure or not. We're actually in the midst of collecting this about MOOC instructor professional development. I decided to design a MOOC just to experiment, expose my university to the broader world, summarize our way of teaching. I want to get my university's approach to teaching. I want to make people aware, the world community aware of how cool we are in Sweden, and maybe they'll come here. You know, I want to make some videos available for my own students. So one reason a person did a MOOC was just to create some videos for his face-to-face class, right? They felt that in terms of innovation, some of the videos and projects and peer review were innovative. How do they address diverse learners? Some of the same things we had from before. Video recordings, discussions, supplemental materials, things like that. What do instructors perceive as the strengths of the MOOC? The topic of the MOOC. Duh, okay. This is not too, this is just, challenges that we face. So here are some challenges, ways we address the challenges. One way people address challenges is to look at other people's MOOCs. Another way to address challenges is to talk to your colleagues. Another way is to seek help from your institution. Another way is to seek help from others. Read books, not so much training, not so much go to a conference, but more so browse other MOOCs. That's how you learn today. Design considerations, there's a wide gamut of design considerations, but of course, what are my objectives, what are my assessments, how long is the course, how much time do I have, quite a wide gamut. How would you redesign the course? Well, actually, I'm not going to redesign the course. I'm happy with my course. Let's leave it alone, okay? That's one person in the UK. Other people said, I want to add some lab experiences. I want to add an international experience. I want to cancel the peer grading. It didn't work so well. I want to invite guest speakers. I want to make the length of the MOOC shorter. All these different things, these were things that they said, how I redesign my particular MOOC. I think that's a good one, you know? How would they redesign the MOOC? Here's the news. I'm a better teacher face-to-face having done a MOOC. Isn't that interesting? I'm a better teacher face-to-face because of teaching my MOOC. I think that's pretty cool right there. More findings recap. MOOC instructors were satisfied with their design and most did not want to make a major change. Future research might explore changes in MOOC instructor motivation across several iterations of the MOOC, or perhaps look at professional development. So that's what we're doing now. We're looking at professional development in MOOC. MOOCs. What time are we at? So I'm going to mention this one briefly. We did a study on Malaysian MOOCs and Indonesian MOOCs, and I had a student from Indonesia who did this study with, how many instructors did she have? 46. I was surprised she got 46 Malaysian and Indonesian instructors. She found almost 200. 46 took her survey. She worked very hard. Most were instructor-led, not as many self-paced, and they were smaller. You'll notice they're less than 1,000, and they had face-to-face meetups. Many of the Indonesian and Malaysian were blended. They met people. And so the reasons to offer MOOCs: contribute to human development, institution encouraged me, personal interest, same kind of things we had before. Then she analyzed things on preparation for the MOOC. What did she do to prepare? You know, familiarize myself with the design, build it. What did they do to prepare? And then she looked at how to get strategies to increase attraction to the MOOC, how to get them to sign up. She looked at how to get them to participate. I'm not going through all these. She looked at how do they track. These were the things she analyzed in hers. I'm just going to skip over this for the sake of time. Again, who did you turn to for advice? Well, they turned to other MOOC instructors, or you looked at tutorials, things like that to get help. So the primary motivations were personal interest, research, experience. They want experience in teaching a large class. They want to do research on it. They have a personal interest. They're altruistic. Those are some of the things. But anyhow, that's the sixth study. The last one, I think it's the last one, maybe it's the second one. We're now collecting data right now on self-directed learning in MOOCs, and we did a pilot first. I think the data I'm going to show is from the pilot here, and now we're doing a bigger study. The pilot had 50, I think, or so, looking at self-directed learning and the skills that students need. We had 48. We interviewed 4. The big study has 199, and we're interviewing 20. So we're currently collecting that for maintenance dissertation. And so this is some of the things. Again, number of online courses you've designed. Many had never designed a course online before, only had done one before. How many MOOCs have you designed in total? Most, just one MOOC. And delivery format, most have support, but many are self-paced or have no support at all. Many MOOCs are self-paced MOOCs. We talk about SDL. Most believe you can teach self-directed learning skills. Most MOOC instructors believe you can teach it. And then we interviewed people from the UK about how they knew their students were self-directed and that kind of stuff. Skip that. We've had several students who said this is their 10th or 15th MOOC within a body of students who are very much learning junkies who enjoy all kinds of learning. They're taking multiple MOOCs over and over again. We have people who are over 60 years old who are taking MOOCs. We have a large number of over 60-year-old people that are taking MOOCs. I think I'll skip that. I think a common practice now, for instance, is to chop up a video into 10-minute chunks so that it's more easy to watch. We have deadlines and reflections in our MOOC to develop self-directed learning skills. I'll skip over some of these things. I figure once we get people started, we can keep them in the course like we have a good track record of keeping people in. The important thing is to get them reminders of the MOOC, get them to reflect on what they've learned in the MOOC, ask challenging questions, get them to relate the content to their own life, get them to collect interviews of people related to the content, get them out in the street doing interviews of people related to our class. So I'm going to skip that. Skip that, it's the last. Anyhow, there's a lot of studies we've done on MOOCs over the past 3 years, 4 years. As you can see, I just gave a few things. It's like being a kid in a candy store. We've got a database of 3,000 MOOC instructors that we can tap into for a series of studies, a series of different studies that we've been doing actually. And so if you go to my homepage, you can see many of these studies. So you're the only group that I presented this talk to about MOOC's researches. In my 12 days here, I'm ending with something I have not talked about before. So I had to get refreshed in my brain a little bit about this topic, actually. Let me skip out of this talk and say, does anyone have any comments or final questions for us about MOOCs? Or 3 words?
Is it challenging
Is it challenging?
to ask the instructor? Is it challenging to ask the instructor to fill out this survey?
To get them to fill out the survey. So we're getting about a 10% response rate typically, which is about normal for an opt-in survey, for a volunteer survey. What's not challenging is getting volunteers to be interviewed. Lots of people want to be interviewed. It's surprising how many, we're getting more people that want to be interviewed than we had thought or ever expected. So yeah, that's been a real interest. You get a piece of chocolate. Here you go. You have your hand up back there, so I have a $1 million bill for you just for raising your hand. You can now ask me a question.
Thank you, Professor. I have 2 questions so far. The first one will be, what's the difference between the YouTuber and MOOC instructor? This is my first question, because I think that it's kind of just the platform difference. And the second one will be, as a teacher, we have the teaching assessment. We can get some feedback from our students, and it's easy to get the paper feedback just directly. However, is there any assessment for MOOC instructors? How can they just, rephrase their teaching skills? Thanks.
So I'll answer the first one first, the second one first. And she asked, are there any evaluations of the MOOC instructor? So that first study I showed from Timothy Yu looked at Course Talk. Course Talk is a kind of like an online rating system of MOOC instructors. There are other such rating systems out there. So such things never existed before MOOC, of course. So that's one way. Now, every institution can offer evaluations of their MOOC instructors, and I think they do. They have evaluation forms. But you don't, what should I say? I don't remember having an evaluation of my MOOC or of myself, but we did do a survey. We did ask questions of students. But, so there are quality ratings from Course Talk and from other places, yes. Are these, what should I say, well known? I'm not sure you have ever heard about Course Talk, but so it might be that they exist, and maybe people in North America are aware, but maybe in Asia here you're not aware of these tools. Your first question is, how are YouTubers different from MOOCers? I never heard I rarely hear the word YouTuber until I came here. YouTuber is a Taiwan, people in Taiwan use this. There's a lot of people in YouTube who become famous, right? And they get a following. And they might offer a class, or they might offer tips, or they might offer a show, interactive show, a Q&A cooking show, or something like that. A what? Politicians are YouTubers. My friend who just gave away 20,000 fried chickens last night down in Kaohsiung, he's on a nightly show. He's known, I know him as Lucifer Chu, you know him as his Chinese name, which is Chinese name? Yeah. So he's kind of politically, he has a kind of he's a YouTuber, if you will, right?
He's a translator.
Yes.
Those are not classes. Those are events. Those are news events, right? Those are not classes. Just like we have the nightly news that we can watch on BBC or CNN or whatever. Those are not classes. We still have, so YouTubers are kind of a quasi, I don't know, they're kind of I don't know how to describe them. They're a phenomenon, they're an event. But like in the universities, we have webinars, or seminars, or colloquiums. They're like repeated colloquia, or repeated seminars, they're repeated events. They're like a news show, they're like a TV show, or they're more like a TV show than a class. There's nobody testing them on, they're learning. People don't sign up and take and read ahead of time, and so they're different from a class in that there's no credit wrapped around it. test at the end. There's no, there is a community, so they have aspects of classes because they do have communities underneath with discussion forums, right? And they might have posted supplemental resources that they might post the video transcripts, they might post the video itself. So YouTubers have followings, like a MOOC, they have a list, people click and go. But they never have an end date. A MOOC has an eventual end date. They just keep going. They just keep like a TV show, or like a, like a TV show. So it's a really great question. You could, if you want to join my research team and say, Dr. Bonk, I want to study YouTubers as a MOOC phenomenon. You could convince me that YouTubers are MOOC providers. I could be convinced. And we could do a study of that or look at what features of YouTubers are similar to MOOC providers, or what aspects of what motivates people to be a YouTuber, what motivates traditional MOOC instructor, and how are they similar and how are they different? That would be a real interesting study to do, actually. There's a lot that can be done with the notion of YouTuber. A lot, actually. So that's a really, really good question. And it's a very current thing. And it's, what's your name? You don't remember your name? What? Your name is?
Just call me Ruby, okay?
Ruby?
Yeah,
Ruby. Oh, Ruby Tuesday.
Thanks.
It's a good Rolling Stones song. Okay, I'm dating myself. Other questions? I have 1 million left. I'm dropping things. Okay, 1 million. Last one. Any guys in the back want to ask? Okay. You have a question for me?
Actually,
Professor has a question for me.
Yeah.
And he gets the last million. Okay.
Wait, it's US or no?
Your question is?
Well, I think it's interesting because the rewarding system in the university is usually tenure-based. And then not that many, as you can see from your bottom of your survey, not that many professors are sort of motivated based on because they want to get tenure by reading books. So I'm wondering, at the institutional level, how the university can sort of compromise or reconcile this kind of a new kind of teaching versus, but it's not really adding your research credit, to help your approach.
If I was a dean or a university vice president, and I had people teaching MOOCs and they weren't being recognized for tenure, what would I do to keep people incentivized to offer MOOCs? One, I would probably have some kind of annual recognitions and rewards for people who offer MOOCs within my university or my college or my school. I would have them recognized in some way. I would celebrate what they've done. I'd have a newsletter. In my newsletter, I would even take their picture of the MOOC instructors and say, here's a new, I'd make people aware of what's going on. So that I'd raise the awareness level of my instructors. I would invite them into my office and have lunch with them, just in a way, I'll thank you and me to understand their needs. I'd bring all my MOOC instructors and people who might be interested. I would maybe create a mentoring program between those who are experienced in doing MOOCs and those who are thinking might be interested, and match them up. And maybe find a small snippet of money for the mentoring, or some extra travel money for them, or something in their research account to build that mentorship program up. So if I had to, now I might not have to provide any incentives. They might just be interested in sharing what they're doing. So I'd create some kind of mentoring program, some kind of maybe even an online forum to discuss and share the resources they design and highlight the best practices of those MOOC instructors. They would get in effect, their best work on display. So I would ask every one of my MOOC instructors to share with me 2 or 3 of their pedagogical activities, and then maybe we'd even have them self-nominate or get nominated for, as I said, a MOOC award. So that would be another thing that I would be doing. I might even have a mini conference, mini event that would bring in other people who have done MOOCs at other institutions as well as within, and I would have my base, my people at my university who are offering, do a presentation short, as well as a couple of guests, maybe virtual guests, maybe face-to-face, and make an event out of it. They, again, raise awareness and get them incentivized a bit in what's going on. We could even create some kind of collaborative newsletter, and everyone writes a one page of what happened within their MOOC, we'd have some kind of a format, and all 8 of my MOOC instructors would write, and we'd have a special little thing we could pass out. Here are these, again, all different ways to get people, so, and of course, I would maybe get a TA, or teaching assistant, or 2, or instructional designers, maybe get some part-time money to get them some support, a person, an office they could go to get support for what they're doing. That would also be part of that. There's much, much more. I'm just off the top of my head, but you can see tenure is not the only aspect. I could also start a discussion forum among all the faculty about whether or not this should be considered for tenure, why or why not. At least get the discussion started, not dictate that it should happen, but at least have them discuss in what ways it might be relevant, in what ways it might be recognized within the tenure process. Because if you talk about it, even if it doesn't become central, the fact that you've talked about it and raised the issue, when someone goes up for tenure who's done some of these things, they would at least be recognized in a small way, that they realize the president or the vice president or the dean is someone who's interested in this. So showing an interest. You could also, as the dean, and my dean did this, he came to my MOOC, made a guest appearance. My dean was, he just stepped down as dean, he was from Cuba originally. He just went back to Cuba for the first time in 50 years since he was a kid. He came into my MOOC to talk about going to Cuba, even though it had nothing to do with my MOOC. But then he talked about MOOCs and open education and how he was supporting me. I did the first MOOC at Indiana University, and my dean came during the last synchronous session, and I got worried because an hour before the synchronous session, someone had cleaned the room and unplugged all the technology to vacuum the room. And we had to get it all hooked back in. So it worked just in time. I was a little worried, but and here I was trying to showcase and look, it had worked every week, and fortunately it did work. And we had a green screen like this, like you have here. And so that was good too.
Actually, one of my colleagues got his professorship by doing MOOCs, and his course was so popular, it got credit in China, like Jiaotong University, Taiwan University in China. So it's just an avenue, and the way he got professorship is he studied on his MOOC course, so he can distribute survey to his own students. He has more than 10,000 students all over the world. So it's very easy for him to get research-based, practice-based research.
2 things there. One is we have a self-directed learning study. Some people not only volunteered to be interviewed, they volunteered to put our survey of students. We built a survey of students in their MOOC. So we're now collecting student data in addition to instructor data. And when you have a lot, 40,000 students sign up, you can collect some interesting student data. So I see we're still filming this one, good. So there's a lot that can be done in terms of recognition, celebration of, and creating better understanding of MOOCs, and creating kind of almost a community around the MOOC phenomenon within your institution or your department. So if I was dean, and I'll never be dean, I would do some of those kinds of things, or if I was director of a learning center, or you have a digital learning center, our director. So that's some. Any final comments? We're over time. Any final comments, or I never said thank you for inviting me in here today. Thank you for staying a little extra here. Does anyone else, Tina, you want to make a final comment on the video screen here? Tina, come on up. Come on up. And the director needs to come on up here too. So we can get, does the director want to come up here too? So we got a couple of people on the screen with me here. Sneak in, sneak in, sneak in. I think there we go. Okay, great. Here's the microphone.
Thank you for Kurt to come.
Good to be here.
The first visit to CCU, and also I'm glad to see him for
after 5 years.
After 5 years, Okay, and thank him to bringing in some very new ideas about the following education direction. And also we're working on the MOOCs very heartily, yeah, with our instructor here and directors. So we hope in the future the CCO will become one of the center of MOOCs and also Education 4.0. Okay, now you want a small gifts, right? Because you have very packed.
Thank you.
So is that small enough?
That's small.
Okay, something is bigger.
Okay. What is this?
With
I'll open it up at lunch.
your logos
Okay.
on.
Thank you very
Right.
much. Thank you all. Thank you for inviting me in. We can maybe get a group picture. If you guys stay seated right there, I'll stand behind you and we can get a group picture with everybody. Maybe we can get the gentleman who's taking pictures. You can use my camera and take a picture in your camera and other cameras. And I'll stand with Tina, come back with me, back behind. We'll use these 2 rows. And then Vicky, come back behind me. Tina, come back behind me.
3, 2, 1. Okay, more. One more. 3, 2, 1. Okay.
No, one more. No one. The ladies right here, you come back here with us too, and then they can come closer. Okay. So if you all come back. Now you can come closer. Okay. All right. Is that close enough? Okay.
3,